Hello, I'm Kieran Lynch and welcome to Teagasc, the Teagasc Sheep podcast. Each episode will bring you latest insights, advice and technical updates for the sheep industry. With lameness prevention high in the agenda of many sheep farms, I'm joined by Damian, sheep specialist with Teagasc, who discusses the role footbathing plays as part of a lameness control programme. Damian discusses the importance of good facilities, in particular the use of batch footbaths, as part of this control strategy. He gives us his key pointers on footbath design, location and how it should be best used. Damian, thanks very much for coming back and joining us.
No problem, Kieran.
Damian, lameness is an issue that the sheep sector has been dealing with for a long time. But one of the key things we've seen, any flock that has it well under control, and there are plenty out there that do, they generally all have good facilities. And it really brings us maybe what we're going to discuss in this podcast. Footbath design, location and what type of footbath should go in is a key part of lameness prevention. Can you outline maybe, to start us off, the role footbathing plays in lameness prevention?
Well, as you say, Kieran, it's one of the key elements of controlling lameness in a sheep flock in terms of early intervention through regular footbathing. It's very effective in both treating and preventing scald, which is a particular problem with lambs at this time of the year. And it's also crucial in terms of prevention of foot rot.
Like, in terms of facilities, what are you looking for?
And again, the aim should be to footbath the sheep each time they're in the handling yard to complete other routine tasks. And again, a well-designed handling facility, including the likes of a batch footbath in particular, greatly increases the chances of this being achieved. Now, a lot of people use the likes of walk-through trays, and these again can be useful. They're better probably than not footbathing at all. And they're good in terms of treating scald. They're probably appropriate for use on an out farm. The big issue with them, though, I suppose, is that they're probably too small, and in general, animals will just walk through them. So contact time with the footbath solution is the big issue. So the preferred option, I suppose, is a batch footbath. Where you have poor facilities, it can become a time-consuming job, and the chances of it not being done on a regular basis are greater, I suppose.
You mentioned in-race footbaths, and it brings up the old adage, a quick run through the footbath, and really it's ineffective for a lot of products like zinc sulfate and copper sulfate we use. But you also mentioned a batch footbath, and maybe you'll just describe what this actually is.
Yes, well, a batch footbath is separate to the handling race, and it should be located so that animals, when they're leaving the handling race, they're directed into the footbath. So if you're dosing lambs, for example, you fill up the race, dose your lambs. So then you direct this group into the footbath and leave them there to stand. You refill your race, and the idea is that while the next group of sheep are being put through the race and treated, the previous group is simultaneously being footbathed. And this will allow for a good 4 to 5 minute contact time for the footbath solution to work into the hoof. The other important thing, I suppose, is that on leaving the footbath, there needs to be a clean, dry, solid surface where sheep can stand. And ideally, they should be left standing on this for 1 hour to allow the solution work into the hoof.
So, look, obviously it's going to take a little bit of thinking and design, because there's a fair bit in it to fit it into some existing handling yards, or potentially for somebody putting up a new one. But could you maybe give some pointers on that design, maybe start with the size of what the batch footbath should be?
Yeah, again, a batch footbath should be designed so that it will comfortably hold the number of sheep that you have in your handling race. So, again, the footbath floor should be a flat surface, non-slips, so to avoid injury to the animals. So you should probably work out the floor area of your race, the length by the width, and maybe allow about 10% extra for the area of the footbath.
Look, I suppose you mentioned there, in relation to the handling race, but they tend to vary in a lot of farms. I suppose flock size would really be one of the biggest determining factors, or at least grazing group size.
Again, the more sheep that you can fit at a time, the less number of groups that have to be put through the footbath. But again, if it's bigger, it obviously costs more to make up the footbath solution. The one thing I suppose as well about a batch footbath is that if you're using something like zinc or copper sulfate, from once you've made up the solution, it can be used multiple times. Again, this kind of reduces the cost. provided, I suppose, it's not becoming too diluted with rainwater. So there may be the option to locate it under the cover of a roof. For outdoor footbaths, there's a handy tool available there, a hydrometer, and this can be used to check the concentration of your footbath solution, so that you may not need to make up a full new footbath every time, but you may need to add a bit of zinc sulfate, say, to bring it up to your 10% solution.
So if we're to just look at it in terms of area again, like what floor area would you require for a particular batch of O's? Maybe you'll give us a walk through an example of this.
Firstly, the recommendation is that you have 5 centimetres depth of solution in your footbath, so that the hoof is fully immersed. So that's the first point about it. So if you take the example where you're using zinc sulfate, for the mix rate for this is 1 kilogram per 10 litres of water. And this will make up a 10% solution. So zinc sulfate is normally sold in 25 kg bags, so a full bag should be mixed with 250 litres of water to give you your 10% solution. So if you take a 5 square metre floor area, which would be maybe something like 2.5 metres by 2 metres, when you fill this up to the 5 centimetre depth that's required, you'll have your 250 litres of water, and then you can add your 25 kg bag of zinc to make up your 10% solution. Again, it can be difficult to dissolve the likes of zinc, so it very often needs to be dissolved in small quantities in a bucket and poured evenly into the footbath.
And we have a short clip up on YouTube at the moment explaining that. But again, it's very important, the metric here, the 25 kilo bag, and have it stepping up in that size group. So if we take that 5 metre square floor area, how many O's will that hold?
12 to 14 average size O's is what you'll hold in that 5 square metres. So the size of a batch footbath that you require will be very much dependent on flock size. So obviously if you go another 5 metre squared, if you go for a 10 metre squared, this will double the number. So you'll probably hold maybe 24 or 5 O's in a 10 metre squared. This will take the 2 bags of 25 kg bags of zinc sulfate. So say take a flock of 200 O's, you probably need to be designing a footbath that will hold maybe 25 O's at a time, so that you don't have too many fills of the footbath, so you'll get through the job quicker.
And obviously, look, because contact time is so important, you're giving them more opportunity to stand in it for longer.
Well, exactly. I mean, we're recommending 4 to 5 minutes of contact time, so that if you have 7 or 8 groups of yours, it's not going to be a job that's going to take all day to do.
No, and obviously when the lame ones tend to be last, we can always leave them in for slightly longer. Look, we have the size kind of covered of it. In terms of where we locate it, like one of the things with any of these facilities is they need to be easy to get cheap into and easy to get cheap out of. What's your opinion on where a batch footbath should be located in relation to the handling race?
It is important, yeah. I suppose one option is that you locate the footbath immediately on exiting the handling race, so sheep enter directly into the footbath. The major drawback to this setup is it will slow down the flow of animals leaving the race. So again, that's not what you want. I suppose the preferred option is that on leaving the race, the animals go into a sort of a holding pen of similar capacity maybe to the batch footbath, and from there sheep are directed into the footbath. I suppose if you look at it in terms of behaviour, sheep tend to move towards open spaces and towards other sheep. So from this point of view, the side panels or the walls of the footpath should be solid, non-see-through, and ideally have a mesh gate at the end of the footpath leading to the standoff area. So sheep will move towards the open area. And once a group of sheep have gone through the footpath and they're in the standoff area, they should draw sheep towards them. The other thing about it is, in general, when sheep get used to using the footpath, the flow is no big issue. It's just from once they get used to it, it should be fine.
You just mentioned the standoff area there. That's probably another important element, or certainly one of the practices of footpathing that we fall down on. Why is it so important?
I think it's essential that on leaving the footpath, as you said, they're on a dry, clean concrete area, and it's really to get the solution to dry into the hoof. And if you think of the situation where if they go from the footpath and go directly out into the field, they may be walking through a mucky gap. They may be walking through wet grass. So effectively, if you like, you're removing the footpath solution from their hooves. So the recommendation is that they stand in this area maybe for about an hour. And the other thing, I suppose, about going onto the standoff area where possible, when they're leaving the footpath, maybe there should be a short area sloping back towards the footpath, so any excess solution as they leave the footpath drains back into the footpath.
Look, Damian, obviously there's a bit to consider for anyone that has it in, and there's a cost tied up in it, but look at with lameness, there's the hidden cost and hidden performance, labour spent treating. Like, to sum it up in terms of an investment in facilities.
Yeah, I suppose, look, particularly in flocks where there are high levels of lameness, what I was saying is examine your facilities, maybe decide if there are improvements that can be made or if there are improvements needed. In my experience on farms where a relatively modest amount of money has been invested in providing proper footbathing facilities, it has led to kind of regular footbathing becoming the norm and part and parcel of doing routine tests with the flock. And this practice of regular footbathing has become kind of the cornerstone of drastically reducing the numbers of lame sheep in the flock. And look, it's well worth the investment in terms of the improved flock performance, reducing the use of antibiotics in treating lameness. And also, there's far less labour involved in treating individual cases if you're using the footbath as a prevention.
Damian, thank you very much again. Very clear and concise. Good to have you back with us.
Thanks, Kieran. No problem at all.
Okay, plenty of points to consider. Look, a batch footbath is one of them facilities that will pay for itself on farms, and it's an essential element of the lameness control programme. Damian outlined a number of features to consider, both in terms of design, location, and what a suitable size for your flock or management group is. I will include a link in the description to a short clip we have on YouTube on how to prepare a footbath solution. I think you might find that useful. Look, that's it for this episode. We're going to wrap it up at this point. Again, for any other updates on the sheep programme, keep an eye on our Twitter page at Teagasc Sheep. I'm Kieran Lynch. Thanks for joining us in this episode. Don't forget to subscribe and tune in to future episodes.